All right. Hello again, adventurers, and welcome to another exciting episode of D&D Did a Deep Dive, the show where we dive deep into classes, subclasses, and other features of 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons to help you get the most out of your choices. So, today, we're going to be covering the first of the two new subclasses in Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft, and that is the Bard of the College of Spirits. Now, just like every other one of these, we're going to do a very brief review of 5th edition class design, which is every class is designed to play very, very differently right from the beginning. And in order to do that, they have these things that we call defining features. And in order to be a defining feature, it has to show up within the first two levels of the class. So the Bard. The defining features of the Bard are basically two things. First, they are full spellcasters. It's not a defining feature, but that does kind of mix into what they did to do. But their first defining feature that they get right at first level is called Bardic Inspiration. But Bardic Inspiration basically allows them to use their bonus action to inspire another character, generally for around 10 minutes. Basically, what happens is they get a Bardic Inspiration die, which starts as a d6 and gets bigger as the Bard gains levels. And they can add that d6 to one ability check, so it's a saving throw, or attack roll that the creature makes within 10 minutes. Once they use it, it's gone. But they are allowed to use it where they want it. And they can choose to use it after they see the die roll, but before they find out whether or not it hits or misses. So, for that, the Bard has a number of Bardic Inspiration dice. Generally, it's equal to their Charisma modifier, and they get all uses of their Bardic Inspiration dice back after they finish a little long rest. So in general, a Bard can have up to 5 Inspiration dice, and eventually they get up to a D12, which is a big deal. A plus 12 to an attack roll, in addition to other pluses, is basically a guaranteed success. And even if you roll a 1 can be the difference between a success and a failure. So the Bard is designed to be a class that helps other classes do their cool things, and they use their Bardic Inspiration die to do that. The second defining feature of the Bard is what's called Jack of all trades, which is basically any skill check that they are not proficient in, they can add half their proficiency bonus rounded down to that check. So again, the Bard is designed to be able to succeed in a lot of different places, but not really be a super master of any one or two things. You know, the idea of Jack of all trades, master of none. Now, the Bard does, I thought, at third level, which doesn't technically count as a defining feature, but is close enough that we can at least mention it. They do get expertise at the third level, which they share with the rogue. Another thing that means it's not a defining feature, but is something special. And that basically means there are certain things that they are extra good at, which kind of goes against that Jack of all trades thing, but you know, it's what they are. Bards in general are very, very good at skills challenges just overall, and there are a few skills challenges that they are very, very good at. And then their Bardic Inspiration makes them an amazing support class. And their subclass in general tends to give them other ways that they can use their Bardic Inspiration as well. So that's what we'll be looking for with the Bard College of Spirits. So let's dive into the actual subclass and see the cool things that you get. When you pick this subclass at third level, you actually get three things. Again, in general, I'm not a huge fan of getting three things at the third level for a class because it generally means you're packing a lot into a single level up. But this one kind of makes sense just because the first two things are not massive changes. They just kind of help direct the class into the third thing. So the first thing that you get at the third level is called Guiding Whispers, which is you learn the Guidance cantrip, which doesn't count against the number of Bard cantrips that you know. And for you, it has a range of 60 feet when you cast it. So basically, you get to learn the Guidance cantrip. If you're not familiar with it, effectively, the Guidance cantrip normally requires you to touch a creature, and then they get to add a D4 to an ability check of their choice. So it's basically kind of a lesser version of Bardic Inspiration. And for the College of Spirits, you can actually do it from range. A cleric normally has to touch someone because it is a cleric cantrip. It is a very well-known cleric cantrip. A lot of clerics take it because it's really useful. But generally, a cleric has to touch someone in order to do it. You can do it from 60 feet away, which actually fixes one of the problems that a lot of people don't think about with a Guidance cantrip. And I see this all the time when I'm running games with a cleric, that when they're doing something like maybe they're trying to negotiate a price for something, most clerics just treat it as, oh, I can let you roll a d4. And that's all they think about. But the cantrip itself has both verbal and somatic components. So it is not them simply, touching someone and then nothing. No, there's actually like a chant in everything they do. And so I've seen a lot of clerics sit there and like players trying to influence someone else to get them information. And so as they go, I'm going to try deception. I'm going to try and lie to him and convince him to tell me what I will want. And as they're about to roll, the cleric go, oh, I give him guidance. And I go, okay, go ahead and make the roll. And they roll, and they roll like a 26 or something like that. And I said, unfortunately, that's not high enough. After the person saw you go, oh, dear God, please help me lie. Please help my friend lie to this person. He didn't believe anything you were saying. They go, well, I didn't say that. I said, yes, you did. You prayed for him so that he could lie better, directly in front of the person he was trying to lie to. And that's the issue with guidance is, yes, it's an incredibly useful thing, but it's not a really secretive thing. So using, being able to use it from 60 feet away means you just kind of have to be tangentially familiar with what's going on, and then you can cast it. And it is a cantrip. You can use it as many times as you will want. There's a lot of benefit to being able to use it from 60 feet away. So, yeah. Overall, I think it's really interesting. It is not a game-breaking thing, but it does allow you to use the Guidance cantrip differently, which I find really cool. The second thing you get at third level is called Spiritual Focus. Basically, you can use the following objects as a spellcasting focus for your bard spells. A candle, a crystal ball, a skull, a spirit board, or a Taroka deck. And then starting at 6th level, when you cast a bard spell that deals damage or restores hit points through the spiritual focus, you roll a d6, and you can gain a bonus to 1 damage or healing roll for the spell equal to the number rolled. Now, there's a lot to unpack there. First things first, right at third level, it simply gives you more foci that you can use, which isn't a real game changer, but it is a real flavor changer. Again, the College of Spirits itself is based on the idea that the bard can actually kind of channel spirits and ghosts and things like that to help them. That's why their guidance cantrip works from far away, because they're not actually guiding you, and they're not asking a deity to guide you. They're asking a spirit to guide you. And they can ask a spirit to guide you from right next to you or from a little further away. It's not going to make a huge difference because they can see the spirit, but no one else can. And that's the kind of the same thing with spiritual focus. Is they're a little bit more spiritual, so they have a little more kind of fortune tellery style foci. But once you get to 6th level, that's a big difference because now you get a bonus to damage or to attack, to damage or healing. Now, they word it in a very specific way, which I think is interesting. You gain a bonus to 1 damage or healing roll of the spell equal to the numbered rolled. So you're not adding an additional die, you're adding a static number that can change. What that basically means is for critical hits, you don't get to double this die. You don't get to roll twice as many dice, which could become a really big deal, simply because crits get exponentially more powerful for every die that you add to them. So just a little bit of a limiting factor, but still being incredibly useful. It is incredibly rare for spells to get a flat bonus to damage or healing or anything like that in 5th edition. You generally just get the spell, and any bonuses are for casting it at a higher level. So this is actually something kind of unique, kind of very useful. And again, you do get the base ability at 3rd level, but you don't get the upgraded version of it until 6th. So not too much that you're flooding right at the 3rd level, which again, I think is good. The final thing and the defining aspects of this subclass that you get at 3rd level is called Tales from Beyond. While you're holding your spiritual focus, you can use a bonus action to expend 1 use of your bardic inspiration and roll in the Spirit Tales table, using your bardic inspiration die to determine the tale the spirits direct you to tell. You retain the tale in your mind until you bestow the tale's effect, or you finish a short or long rest. You can use an action to choose 1 creature you can see within 30 feet of you. This can be you, to be the target of the tale's effect. Once you do so, you can't bestow the tale's effect again until you roll it again. You can retain only 1 tale at a time. And rolling on the spirit's tale, the spirit tales table immediately ends the effect of the previous tale. And if the tale requires a saving throw, the DC equals your spell save DC. So there's a lot to unpack there. But the basics of it are, this is a different way to use your bardic inspiration die, and it's actually a combination of an action and a bonus action. Use the bonus action to prime the tale effectively. Basically, when you use your bonus action to use your bardic inspiration for this, you store a tale in your mind, and then you can use an action later on to use it. And the number of things, the number of different effects you get from these tales is really astounding. And one of the things I like the best about it is, I mentioned before, your bardic inspiration to die gets larger as you level up in the bard class. What that basically means is this ability gets more powerful as your bardic inspiration die gets bigger, because you get access to more tales. At first, you can only access tales 1 through 6 because you have a d6 for your bardic inspiration die. So anything between tales 7 and to 12, you can't use. But as your die gets bigger, you get access to tales 7 and 8, and then tales 9 into the 10, and then eventually tales 11 into the 12. So they have a limiting factor built into this ability already, which I find really interesting. In general, that means as the number of the tale gets higher, it does a few more interesting things. But none of these abilities are useless at any level. I'm not going to go through every single one of them because that would make this a very, very long video. But to give you some ideas, the first tail is called Tail of the Clever Animal. And it's for the next 10 minutes. Whenever a target makes an intelligence, wisdom, or charisma check, the target can roll an extra die immediately after rolling the d20 and add the extra die's numbers to the check. The extra die is the same type as your bardic inspiration die. So this sounds just like your bardic inspiration. However, it lasts for 10 minutes. Your bardic inspiration is a one and done thing. This is every time they make an intelligence, wisdom, or charisma check, they get to roll a bardic inspiration die with it every single time. And it's not limited to just intelligence checks or just wisdom or just charisma. So that is a remarkable upgrade to your bardic inspiration. And again, because it uses your die, it's going to get more powerful as you go. Other ones are things like Tale of the Renowned Duelist, which is the second one. You make a melee spell attack against the target. On a hit, the target takes force damage equal to 2 rolls of your bardic inspiration to die plus your charisma modifier. This literally turns your bardic inspiration into a melee spell attack. And they just get cooler and cooler as you go on. As you get to some of the higher ones, like 11 is Tale of the Angel. Again, this is one that you can only get once your bardic inspiration die is a d12. You still have to roll the 11 to be able to use it. But it's the target regains hit points equals to 2 rolls of your bardic inspiration die plus your charisma modifier. And you end one condition from the following list affecting the target: blinded, deafened, paralyzed, petrified, or poisoned. That's pretty big. It's a long-range heal because, again, any of these can affect a target within 30 feet of you. And it ends some pretty bad conditions. Deafened, for the most part, I've not seen it used in any of the games I've played or watched. Deafened has not been that big a deal. Blinded is. Not being able to see your targets gives you disadvantage on attack rolls. Paralyzed is super bad. Any attacks, any melee attacks made against you within 5 feet, that are made from within 5 feet, if they hit, they are auto crits. You also have disadvantage, I believe you just auto fail. I'm going to check here. Yeah, you auto fail any strength or dex saves. And then petrified is really bad, and poisoned ain't great. You have disadvantage on basically all attack rolls and ability checks. So all of those are really bad for your characters. And with this tail, you just can heal them, and you can give hit points at range. So yeah, overall, this is such an interesting and unique ability, and probably the most important part of playing this bard is learning when to use these tails at the right time. Again, you can only keep one tail in your head at any given moment. But to get a new tail, you just burn a bonus action. So always having a tail prepared is generally a good idea. And depending on the tail that you have, it's going to change how you use this. Again, there are just so many different. Again, there's 12 different tails you can have here. Every single one of them has so many different uses that this really makes this a very interesting support kind of class. So yeah, just super cool and interesting. And mastering your tails is going to be the most important thing you do with this class. At 6th level, you get Spirit Succession. You can conduct an hour-long ritual channeling spirits, which can be done during a short or long rest. So while you're challenging, you can also get the benefits of a short or a long rest using your spiritual focus. You can conduct the creature, we'll try this again. You can conduct the ritual with a number of willing creatures equal to your proficiency bonus, including yourself. At the end of the ritual, you temporarily learn one spell of your choice from any class. The spell you choose must be a level equal to the number of creatures that conducted the ritual or less. The spell must be of a level you can cast, and it must be in the school of divination or necromancy. You choose this. The chosen spell counts as a bard spell for you, but doesn't count against the number of bard spells you know. And once you perform the ritual, you can't do so again until you start a long rest. And you know the chosen spell until you start a long rest. This effectively gives you access to any spell you want. And with your proficiency bonus, your proficiency bonus can go up to 6. So theoretically, this can teach you a spell of any class spell list up to level 6, as long as you have enough people around you. The only limitation is it has to be divination or necromancy. Divination in general has its uses. It tends to be a lot more support focused. Necromancy is bad mamma jamma stuff. Necromancy spells do a lot of damage. They can raise undead. Necromancy spells also include resurrection spells. So being able to know high level necromancy spells is massively useful. And again, you get to keep this spell known until you start a long rest, at which point you can just do it again. So there's a lot of useful things you can do by having a single spell that you just get to change every morning effectively, or every night, seeing as you can do it once you start a long rest, you can do it. So right before everyone goes completely asleep, everyone holds hands and you get a new spell. So very interesting, very useful. Again, if you combine that with the spirit tales to kind of make them work together, again, you get some pretty amazing, interesting stuff. Finally, at 14th level, you get Mystical Connection. You now have the ability to nudge the spirits of tales from beyond toward certain tales. Whenever you roll the spirit tales, whenever you roll on the spirit tales table, you can roll the die twice and choose which of the two effects to bestow. If you roll the same number on both die, you can ignore the number and choose any effect on the table. This gives you a massive amount of versatility. Now you're no longer completely limited by the number you roll. If you need a certain tale, you have a much better chance of getting it. And if you roll the doubles, you just get to pick the tale that is going to be most useful to you at that point, which is massive. It also means when you're preparing, because again, this tale stays in your mind until you take a short or long rest. So if you're doing it at the beginning of the day, just have a tale already primed, and you roll doubles, that means you can just pick the one that you think is going to be most useful for you that day. If it's going to be a day spent inside the city, maybe you will choose Tale of the Clever Animal, because if you're in a city, you're going to be interacting with people, and giving someone, it might be you, the ability to interact better for 10 minutes is going to be really, really useful. Or maybe you take Tale of the Phantom, that's the 8th one. The target becomes invisible until the end of its next turn, or until it hits a creature with an attack. And if the target hits a creature with an attack during this invisibility, the creature takes necrotic damage equal to a roll of your Bardic Inspiration die. It is then frightened of the target until the end of the frightened creature's next turn. So again, being able to choose the one that you want is really going to be very, very useful in a number of situations. For final thoughts. Overall, I love this class. First things first, it improves a defining feature of the bard. It gives them a different way to use their bardic inspiration. Do I think that this means that the bard is never going to use their regular bardic inspiration and only use tales? No. There are a lot of benefits to bardic inspiration itself. However, the tales, despite their randomness, have so many useful features that I think this bard will always have a tale handy. Now, if you don't want to get rid of that tail, you can use your bardic inspiration normally and get to keep the tail for when you need it. But it's just so interesting, the different things that you can do with these tails. Like, they just turn it into such a different kind of bard. And when you use the flavor built in with the class, that you are actually contacting spirits that are telling you these tales of real things that happen, you can come up with such interesting, unique stories and play just a really, really cool character. So yeah, like the whole thing. And then the spirit sessions that you get at 6th level are just useful. Like, there really is no other way to say it other than you get spells. They're limited to divination or necromancy, but it's still, you get access to any divination or necromancy spell in the game, up to 6th level, depending on how many people you can get to hold your hands. It's just useful. So overall, this whole thing, this whole subclass is just immensely useful, and you can make a really, really interesting, unique bard from it. Anyway, that is going to be all for me today. As always, if you enjoyed this, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon, and turn notifications on to make sure you don't miss any of these videos. In the comments down below, what tale would you want to tell? Let's say you're playing this bard. Just give me a quick, like, 1 or 2 sentence description of a tale you would want to tell that would inspire a player to do something. Leave that in the comments down below. Otherwise, that is all for me today, and I will see you guys next time, all right? Bye-bye.